Hi, my name is Craig Collins. I'm the CEO of Yes You Can Read Now. And I think that you may have possibly looked into recently the subject of dyslexia. You may have someone in your family, or you may be suffering from dyslexia. You're having trouble with reading. And that's my specialty, is helping you with that. Now, just recently, I was watching a TEDx presentation on dyslexia. You know, you would think that I knew everything there was to know, but I didn't. And there was a gentleman speaking, and he explained that there was some interesting history behind dyslexia. That it makes sense that people would be dyslexic. What he told me, which was really fascinating to me, was that long ago there was the Industrial Revolution. A lot of us have heard about the Industrial Revolution. But we didn't think about it in regards to reading. But what happened? Well, people were living on farms and ranches. And how did they learn? They learned because their fathers and mothers and neighbors and uncles and whatever taught them how to do something. They taught them how to cut down trees, or how to milk a cow, or how to plant seed, or how to harvest, or all the things that you needed to know to survive in that world. And all of a sudden, here comes the Industrial Revolution. The Industrial Revolution, of course, you had to go into a city, you had to be there at a certain time, you had to clock in, clock out, and you had to perform a certain task. And so that task caused your brain to think differently. You'd never been really task-oriented before. And when you perform that task, some of it took reasoning and, reading. So about that time, because they wanted to be teaching people and they needed to teach more people and give them classes and to teach them instead of been learning out on the farm, they invented a printing press. A printing press. So now there was these squiggly little lines they called letters, and these squiggly little lines went together, these letters, and they made sounds, and they knew the sounds, so they kind of recognized the sounds. And then those sounds made words, and those words told a story, or told them how to do something. So it became obvious that it was important to be able to read, right? If you were going to work in a factory. If you were going to be there, be going into a city, if you're going to run a business. So the brain had to receive this change, the brain. So when the person was on the farm and learning from many people, there were these towers in the brain, right? And they were far apart. They were far apart, and they took on a big picture. Like there was if you milk the cow, then the milk is going to make cheese, and the milk is going to be drank by your mom and dad, and you're going to make, pancakes with it, whatever. So there were the towers were far apart. But when you went into the city and you had to work in the factory, your brain had to adapt. It had to be able to put small things together. It had to be able to be very concise. And so the brain changed. It actually changed. The only problem is only about 20% of the people in the world at that point in time didn't go to the Industrial Revolution. They stayed home. And of course, women stayed home. And they took on a lot of the chores that the husband had been doing for a long time. And they had to learn the same way. Meanwhile, the husband is going into the city, and his brain is changing, and he's learning to read based on what's printed by the printing press. So it kind of makes sense to me, understanding why, to survive, these two groups of people got going. What was this happening? So possibly when you are unable to read, it's because you're a descendant of someone who possibly stayed on the farm. Okay, well right now, the whole world has gone totally in a circle. So now we are needing to go back to having the brain that we used when we were working on the farm to figure out big puzzles. And to be able to understand how we create something. We have to work out of the box. We have to solve problems. Well, people who are dyslexic, you possibly are dyslexic, that makes you really brilliant. You're really needed right now. You're a part of this world that we need because we need the way your brain thinks. And at the same time, there's a ton of information out there we need you to know so that you can participate in our world and make it a better world, discover things, invent things. We need your help. So in doing so, we have to teach you how to read. Well, that isn't easy to do. I mean, because your brain doesn't like it. It's not interested in doing that. It would really like to be able to do some art, or possibly design a building and do architecture. Your brain's good at that, architecture, art. It's mechanical, like to put things together and take them apart, put them back together again. So my brother, Doug Collins, he passed away recently. But before he passed away, his whole life was about having you have a different experience with reading than he did. He didn't learn to read until he was 30 years old. Yeah, he was in law school. And he was going to not be able to go to law school. I mean, he was going to not be able to go to the Industrial Revolution. He wasn't going to be able to understand those big words. He was somebody who was an artist, and he learned how to be an artist from other people, and he was creative. He was really creative. And he could figure out all kinds of problems in his mind, thought huge things. But to sit down and just learn these multi-syllable words that were huge was going to be real hard for him. Well, his instructor told him that he wasn't going to have to memorize all those words. Yeah, he could go and just put them in concepts, in these little pieces. And by putting them in these little pieces, then these concepts, then he could just learn the concepts, and then when he saw the concept, it would flow for him. So he went home and he was thinking about that. And he woke up the next morning, and before him was the universal reading method. And he called it the Collins reading method. And he just wrote it down on a piece of paper, the whole thing. And this is what I'm going to share with you. That's what I want you to learn. It was that easy. It just came to him. And he's like you. He was dyslexic. He was somebody who couldn't read. And now he can read, and he goes back to school, and he graduates the top of his class. That's pretty amazing, isn't it? Well, it's pretty amazing for you if you learn our universal reading method. I guarantee it. So what's happening in the brain? Okay, so in the brain, when we're having this problem with reading, is because we've learned, and we learn things, and we're good at things, that allows these two towers in our brains to be far apart. And they're what are called axons, and they are the things that bring this information back and forth. Well, we have a study going on at the University of California in San Diego in the neuroscience department, and they're doing brain imaging to find out what's going on. And the best I can figure out is that somehow we're bringing these towers that were far apart closer together when we teach you the universal reading method. But they seem to move back and forth because the people that learn the reading method also are able to figure out big problems, solve all kinds of issues, see the bigger picture, think out of the box, create things on the computer, be real creative. At the same time, take in information that's the written word. That's quite amazing, isn't it? I mean, I think that's quite amazing. So the universal reading method is here for you. It's a reading method that takes 2.5 hours for you to learn. You're going to sit down. It's kind of like playing a video game. You probably like video games. And so you'll sit there for an hour, and you're going to, the first hour, and you're going to learn all about sounds. But I want you to know, if I could change the name of this whole system from reading, I would, because you've got all this history. I mean, I have the same history. I mean, they laughed at me when I was in the 4th grade at summer school and pointed at me, and how many people hate Craig because he can't read. I promise, that's what they said to me. I had to go behind the backstop and cry, feel terrible. Then I had to take a class, and I was the only one in summer school. I got one teacher and one student. I was the student, and they were going to teach me how to read. And it was really confusing. I mean, I didn't understand. I finally got it, but it was like I never really got it. So I went through school, and I didn't get very good grades. And I didn't like reading a lot. I didn't like learning a lot of things and books. But I was really good at being an artist, like my brother was an artist. And I was really good at being in plays and doing public speaking. And today I'm doing public speaking and I'm feeling comfortable doing that with you. Yes. And then I became an athlete and I was a top swimmer. These are things I didn't have to read to do, and I was good at them. I'm really good at them and really confident in them. The other is I went to church and I really enjoyed my relationship with God. Yeah, and that didn't take a lot of reading, although they did read you from the Bible, and I didn't have to do much reading. So you're here, you're watching this video, you've asked a question, you're seeking an answer, and I want you to know that the universal reading method is an answer. An easy answer to your questions. And the other thing is you're not dumb and stupid. That's really, really bugged me. I wasn't dumb and stupid. My brother wasn't dumb and stupid. We weren't dumb and stupid. You're not dumb and stupid. But at school, somehow, when we come home from school, we feel dumb and stupid. And sometimes people who can't do this reading thing because they memorize all their words, they're good at memorizing. They're not necessarily out there playing as much. They're memorizing words. And meanwhile, we are like up a stream without a paddle. Well, I've got the paddle. And all I want you to do is to enjoy the universal reading method. Sign up for it. You can do it in the morning before you go to school if you wanted to. You can do it the day after school. You come home from school and do it. The next day you go to school and you can read all the words. That happens to us all the time. And I don't care about your diagnosis. I don't care if they say Asperger's syndrome. I don't care if someone says ADHD. All that matters to me is if you'll just sit and I'm the teacher on the video and you do what I say. Talk out loud, speak out loud, repeat what I tell you. And in 2.5 hours you're going to be able to read any word in your vocabulary and you're going to start exploring other words. I want you to know we as people in the world need you. Right. Before, they were putting you down. That you're never going to be anything. But no, we really need you because you have the ability to be a leader. You have the ability to understand things we don't understand. People who can read often can't understand what a dyslexic person understands. And then we need you to learn how to read. So we have you learn how to read, and you have this incredible, brilliant mind that's called DYSLEXIC right now. Then you're the answer to our tomorrow. You're the answer to our landing on planets and creating incredible things. And all you have to do is spend 2.5 hours with me on a video, and you're going to learn to read. So thank you. I hope you'll do that. Take care. Bye-bye.